Well, welcome everyone to our second Spark Series online event of the year. We're so glad that you're joining us today. Whether you're joining live or you're joining later via YouTube, we are super excited to bring this conversation to you. It is our mission at the ITC to really bring people together, sometimes in a room, sometimes virtually. But as we do that, we want to share knowledge and make great connections. So I'm super excited to introduce our panelists today. We're going to have a great, robust conversation about AI, about small business, about emerging trends. And so super excited. My name is Diane Bevan. I'm the president and CEO of the Idaho Technology Council. And without further ado, I'm excited to introduce our panelists. So today we have with us Cody Erben from End Time Tech, Christopher Morgan from Bastion Solutions, and Noah Riley from AI. Oh, generations holding all the
Yeah.
things. So I know you've had a name change, and for some
Yeah.
reason I still have. It's AI genius, and you are a genius in AI. So with that, I think we'll just start with you, and then we'll go in reverse order, and just take a minute and tell our viewers who you are, and maybe even a little bit about kind of your passion around AI. And we'll take a few minutes, and we'll just kind of let each of you introduce yourselves.
Yeah. My name is Noah Riley. My company is called AI Genius Automations. Um, yeah, yeah, it was AI Genius Consulting, and then made the switch. And so yeah, my experience with AI, or maybe the reason why I'm passionate about it, is the capability of it to create time and to make uh, certain kinds of technology and functionality accessible to people, where previously it was very, very difficult to get that kind of functionality, and also as a learning tool. I think it makes it more feasible for people who want to accomplish more things or see their dreams manifested. They have more ways to get there in a world where it's very difficult to find valuable information and useful tools to help you accomplish those things. So that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about it.
Perfect. Thank you, Noah. I'll jump in here. Cody Erben, great to see everybody here today. And I think it's exciting to be here. I lead up the technology team here at In Time Tech, and really, it's been such an exciting journey to kind of see, not the AI revolution, but this journey, and yet at the same time, while they're, today we're going to explore some things and really look at, maybe where are we going, or maybe some challenges, or maybe concerns that are out there. And one of the neat things that I see is that this isn't quite new, especially those of us in the development world where AI has really taken off and just how we do our job. It's not unlike things like Google or Stack Overflow or things like that that have come along in the past. It's another tool that's out there, and yet how you jump in, how you embrace that tool has really been kind of exciting to be along. So, really, from my side, one of the fun things has been really looking at, there's a plethora of things. People are always coming up with new ideas here, and they're able to iterate and come out quickly. But there's some areas that have really jumped out to me that have really helped my workflow. So there's some things, obviously like a chat GPT, things like that. I've really been able to change some things in my workflow to, instead of maybe reading through a lengthy document and really having to understand points and figuring out what I need, I can ask some of these tools to say, hey, summarize this for me, and then I can ask it questions about that specific document that I really need to know. I don't need to know maybe all 50 pages, but there's two or three things I really need to get out of it. So that's an exciting area. Another area that just, I don't know how I would work without it now, but some of the tools like integrated into Zoom, Microsoft Teams, like that ability to have Copilot alongside you and to be able to either interact in the meeting, like, what did Diane just say? Maybe I missed something. Maybe I got distracted. Some things like that have been just so helpful. But really, that meeting summary at the end, where I can focus much more on the conversation and then know I can go back afterward and I have notes taken for me and I can ask it, like, here's what I think I heard. Did I understand that right? Did I understand what Noah shared? Things like that. Those tools have really helped my productivity, as I go from meeting to meeting through the day and things like that. So, and then there's definitely a space in the development world where there's a lot of tools that we brought in that really help us. One key area has been as we come along and work on projects, sometimes understanding legacy code bases can be a challenge and can take a lot of time. So being able to have tools that can help us maybe build diagrams and documentation that didn't exist and then understand a code base much more quickly has enabled us to get up to speed and work with partners more successfully. So those are some areas that really have impacted me directly in this space, and excited to share some of those and more with everyone today.
Thank you, Cody. I guess I'll go ahead and jump in there. My name is Christopher Morgan. I work for Bastion Solutions. I'm the head of research and development for this company and our resident tech evangelist. As far as AI goes, I absolutely adore it. I think it's a tool that we can all utilize, just like any tool, to benefit our lives, to make us more efficient, and probably give us more time back. You know, everybody would like a little bit more time back to apply to do whatever it is that they want to do in their day, whether it's work, home life, all that, to bring balance. How do I use AI? In everything? Everything. I mean, there's no place that I haven't used it. It's like I use it for content creation. I use it for, as Cody alluded to, I love Copilot. I missed a meeting. I need a summary of the meeting. I don't have time to listen to the entire thing. I'd like to get the cliff notes out of it and move on with my day so that I can make some quick decisions. Especially if you're a business leader or a business manager, you have to make your time work for you. You have to manage your time wisely. AI is a gift in that regard because it allows us to be able to do a lot of things that we typically would have to work very slowly at. Content generation. Wow, can it make some pretty PowerPoints, right? We can do that quickly. It can handle a little bit of your SoMe account for you if you want it to. It can do a little, build your image up. It can help you do a lot of different things in your day life. I imagine we're going to unpack some of that later, so I won't drop too much about that. How do I use it in other areas? Well, I build really advanced, highly technological, autonomous vehicles and robotic systems that help deliver your products to you. So every time you call Amazon and you want something fast, I might be the guy that's helping you get that quickly so that you can get that 1 or 2 or same day service. Now, please don't blame me if you don't get your product. Okay, it's not exactly my fault. If you didn't get it, if the ice cream melts before it shows up at your house, there are drivers, please. But there's only so much I can do. So we use it for everything in that, for detecting vision, for grasping, for modeling how arms might move, for navigating vehicles in dense traffic, for planning telematics of where things are inside of a warehouse or where they are in the manufacturing line. Some pretty intense ways. And then, of course, bringing all that information back to optimize our operational conditions to get better and better and better over time. And that helps us scale manufacturing back in this country in such a way that we can actually conditionally afford to do it here in a way that's meaningful and still makes money for everybody. And so we can all get paid equitably here by manufacturing locally. So a lot of detail there, but that's kind of a little synopsis of how I use AI.
Thanks, Chris. You know, when I came and took my tour, and I was so impressed watching the robotics and how they were utilizing AI to determine what was in their hand when they were picking things out for someone's customized order. And so we will circle back around to that and talk about the tech talent and what does an individual need to look forward to, or what skills they might need to have a job in an organization like yours. But before we do that, I think that what's great about this panel today is we have such a great variety and diversification of AI, because you're working in, corporate, utilizing AI and tools and helping grow the things that you're producing. Or Cody, you're working with a lot of businesses, small, medium, large business, and helping them with the services that your company provides, and then integrating AI. And where Noah, you're doing all the things, like you're speaking on AI, you're teaching small business owners how to utilize AI, as well as just individuals. I've watched you over the last month just really embraced just maybe demystifying some of the myths that people have in maybe their heads about AI. So we're going to talk about AI readiness, that gap. So small business owners, I've been one. I've owned businesses, and I know the struggle of the overwhelm of trying to get everything done. And so I think that I can speak for a lot of entrepreneurs that see AI as a game changer, but they're still struggling as to where even to start. From your experience, what do you see some of the barriers? And maybe someone that either is listening to this right now or is listening to this soon, they're going to hear from you and go, okay, I can do this. Like, what are maybe the first couple of things that you like to share with people that they're like, I know that it's really good, but I don't even know where to start. Don't even know.
Yeah, I can definitely get started here and share a little bit. There's three things come to mind right off. And confidence, I think, is one thing. I think some businesses, my experience has been, it's like, oh, it's something so new, it's this technology thing, that's not my area. But really, if you step back and look at it, like, businesses are constantly having to adapt and evolve. We had COVID a few years back. That impacted almost every business. Technology has come along, especially in the past 10, 15, 20 years, much more so, where from data to applications to even services that you're offering, you've had to bring technology more and more into that picture. So as business owners, I think sometimes I like to step back and just share, be confident, like, you've navigated things like this before, and AI is similar. It's just another tool, it's another opportunity that's out there, and you'll be able to figure it out. I think, as I come down to it, one of the areas that I really like to see people look is, look for some of those areas. A good place to get started. You don't have to build $1 million product out of it right out of the gate. Just find some of those areas. Chris, you were sharing a little bit, I know has these experiences, but find just ways that can help your team out. Like, look for, maybe there's a couple people on your team that maybe they're just overloaded. Maybe you need more help, but there's a specific domain expertise. Maybe or there's some complaints around, I'm just too busy. Those are good areas to look at and be like, okay, what would it look like if we could do something? Let's take a small problem and figure out where we could bring AI in. Maybe it's using a tool, something like a Copilot or something, or a Chat GPT, and you could really look at that one workflow and start to get familiar with it and comfortable. So those are some areas where I think businesses can really, you don't have to start with a big problem and go from there, but get comfortable and familiar. And then as you start to use it, as other people on your team get familiar, then it starts to open up. Well, like, oh, we could actually, like, wouldn't it be cool, like, if our sales team had this, they could be more productive. Things like that can start to open up for you.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of that, Cody. The thing that when I get asked this particular question, I always just say, put hands on it. Like, that's your number one thing. Stop trying to look for this incredible thing that you're going to do with it. Stop being overwhelmed. There's nothing to be overwhelmed about. Go to the website and just type something in. Even if you type in, I don't know what I'm doing, just start somewhere. Like, put your hands on it. I mean, some of the things are so simple that people that it almost goes under the radar for today. Okay, so I have a whole Apple ecosystem except for my phone. I just got an iPhone for like a business phone, and also because we're doing like some app development for iOS. And like, I didn't know how to sync my Google contacts to my iPhone. I know how to do it on my Android, and I just pulled up GPT real quick. Hey, how do I do this? Follow it step by step, and it was done in 2 minutes. Whereas, like, how often, like, especially as a small business owner, how many times a day are you like, I need to do this thing, and then you go search for it on the website, and you're looking through some documentation, and then you're reading a blog, and then you go back to this thing, and you're clicking around, and 40 minutes later, you're frustrated, your notifications start to pile up, you feel stressed, and then you drop it. Like, how often that happens as an entrepreneur, because there's so many different things that you have to do, especially for people who say, like, I'm not techie. I think that's one of the best ways to start. Like, instead of standing back and like, oh, it seems overwhelming. Like, it's not overwhelming. Just interact with it. Put your hands on it. You'd be surprised at some of the simple things that can make so much easier. I mean, that would be my first thing. It's like, don't be afraid. Just go go try it.
Yeah, I would echo everything everybody just said. Find, if you're a small business owner and, obviously you have a small, hearty group of people that are working for you, small but hearty, but find the most mundane task that you have in your company today. Something that's just very mundane, something that's repetitive, something that's annoying, maybe even at times creates errors in your accounting or in the way that you forecast things or the way that you come up with something. or if it's just simply taking notes and consolidating those notes into order for you to where they're digestible by the rest of your employees. And then echo what these guys says. Noah and Cody are absolutely right. Go right off to the internet. There's a million tools out there. They're all free to use. And just type in what you need, and you're going to get a huge list. In fact, you'll be quite overwhelmed with the number of responses that come back to you. You might even need AI to sort those for you.
Yeah.
But it's so easy. There's so many free tools out there right now for you to try and experiment, really experiment, and do what Noah said, just type it up, and then do what Cody said, which is gain some confidence and some comfort, and be able to pull back that information. And as you start to develop that, you're going to start to think of new use cases and ideas. And we'll probably list a few of those for you today that the market shares with you publicly. But figure out what's going to be simple and mundane and that you'd like to effectively improve operationally in your business that makes the most business sense, obviously. Or experiment at home away from your business. Have it sort and order all your family photos really quick. Have it take a look at some weird finance equations for you and pull those back and show some spikes in the way that you're spending. Just some simple things that you might, and then bring it back into your business if you want to. If you don't want to involve your business at this point, make it more personal. I think if I was to hat tip anybody here, Diane has used it a lot, and I've been very, very impressed by how she's used it, because when we're having these meetings and we're working through a lot of information quickly, or coming up with documents on the fly, Diane also has a small but hearty bunch of folks working for her. She's got to do a lot of big things, and I know firsthand she could probably give you 2 or 3 amazing use cases that she's pulled back to develop things on the fly that are really, really professional and respectable for in that case. So if you need a good source of use case, talk to Diane offline as well. I'm sure she can help you. And then last but not least, I would say and this is going to be a pitch to you, Noah, but call somebody like Noah, right? Sit down with him, ask him some questions. He's going to help you derive, why should you use this? What makes the most sense? Where should you apply it in your business before you just start throwing out big checks everywhere? Get somebody that's really responsible and a good person on your team to help guide you and direct you where you want to go with it, and then make those decisions.
Yeah. And just add on to that, Chris, I think a great part of like all of our sharing, that common theme is you take it on, like take some of that ownership to get familiar with some of the tools. You may not know how to effectively use like Copilot in your daily flow, but when you get in there and start using it, you've got some foundation. You're like, man, I don't understand how this works, but I really found this useful. Things like that. And then when you bring in somebody like a Noah, or even an In Time, whatever it may be, you've got some foundation there. Like you kind of understand the realm of like what you know and what you don't know, and that really gives partners from my side where I feel like we can really go fast together are ones where they've tried some things, they've experimented, and then we can really, like, the whiteboard is much more of a dialogue back and forth instead of a one way, you should do all these things. And I don't have any relation to exactly where you've been on that side to take. So that's a very helpful piece in this too.
That's great. Chris, I'm glad that it was actually nice to hear you say that, that I'm using AI pretty well. And I think for me, I think one of the things that I have experimented with that I have found to be most useful, especially from being an entrepreneur and running quite a few nonprofits. Nonprofits run on lean budgets and they have to maximize their time and tools. And so once you're inside a product like Microsoft and you let it all work together, and if you're really diligent about saving your files, knowing where they are. So some of my prompts will be, I need to write a document, but I need you to refer to several different files, and I'll name the files. And then I also want you to go to my website, and I'll put my website link. And I'm like, so I'm asking a prompt that says, go read 3 of my files that I've written And then I let them build upon. So when I'm building out an event, I'll start with the very like, let's write a description together for this event. And then as I have created the event, I'll say, now these are the speakers, here's their bio. Now from that, I want you to write me a LinkedIn post to highlight that speaker for that event. And so as it's creating this knowledge base, then things just continue. So I always say that AI will give you the better it gives you is the better you kind of feed it sometimes, because you want it to be so specific. And so we do utilize it a lot. And so I think that for a small business owner, definitely, I love that you've referenced chat. And I love what you said, Noah, about, just like we used to all say, can you just go Google that for me? Like we say Google, like it's saying Kleenex instead of tissue, right? Or Miracle Whip instead of mayonnaise, whatever, I digress. But like the other day I was on the phone with someone and she said, yeah, I went into chat to ask that question. I thought, oh, I would have said I Googled it, but sometimes now with Google, it's like you get all these sponsored ads, and not to down Google, because I think they have a great space in this space. However, it's like when I go into chat and ask a question, I'm not trying to be sold different things that I have to pay for before I get that answer. And so I have noticed that as to be a great shift. I think that before we like our second half, I want to talk a little bit more about the skills that we need for the future. And as entrepreneurs think about their hiring, and as you look at your staff, both you, Cody, and Christopher, and you think about like what are the talent and the tools that we're going to want to see in people as we interview them. But before we close the chapter on just kind of some best practice and tools for small business, I kind of want to just kind of make one more round robin of if there's some specific like outside of chat. I know that Gemini, I've heard some good things about Gemini. If there's any other things that you're just like, there could be someone, and we will do some Q&A at the end, but anything else that you might want to add? And then we want to just kind of talk about skill set.
Yeah, I think one tool that's out there that I ran across, boy, it was maybe 9 months ago. So Google has one of their tool offerings is called Notebook LM. And this has been definitely there's things you can do with like Chat GPT and obvious we're Microsoft Shop in terms of all the internal tooling as well too. But Notebook LM I found is one of those tools that I almost can't live without at times. So it gives me two things. One, in this realm, it's here's a set of documents and maybe I build this collection, but I can create a collection of maybe it's a given partner that I'm working with here. Maybe it's a specific technology area, or maybe it's something that we're looking to build out and maybe think about product ideas. I can kind of collect those ideas, collect information on that, and that can be images, it can be documents, it can be references, and you have a container for that. But really, Google's done a great job with that in terms of building out an interface that lets you interact with that and have and just focus on the material that's in there. And so you're not getting, maybe millions and millions of reference points. It's really focused to that material. And so I can ask it questions and it's just looking over those documents. So specifically, if you do work in like the government sector, there can be regulations after regulations. So that's one tool that is really helpful to put those documents and references in there, and you can get some information out like, all right, I need to build out a CI/CD pipeline that's also secure in these areas. What are things I need to know and how I do this? And boom, it gives me back a good summary, and then I can go research those specific things in that realm. So that's one specific tool that is really I've used, and then we use on our team as well too for that area.
Yeah, Notebook LM is awesome. It's it's a bit unique in the world of where you're doing the uploading the files and asking questions about it. And you're right. I think some of the uniqueness comes from the interface and the way that the multiple different ways you get to interact with the documents once you upload them. It's not just chat with your docs. It's a little more robust than that. So I would second what you say about Notebook LM. It is very, if you haven't checked it out, it's definitely worth checking out. And it's free. Another one of these free tools, Chris, to your point, there are some awesome free tools out there.
Yeah.
I would say I'll stray away from the large language model just for a moment. And I would say, because for a lot of people who are doing content creation, and a lot of people are, whether that's your job or not, you get tasked with it, is Midjourney and Recraft. especially the combination of those two things. If any of you saw the thing that I put on my LinkedIn, that little, it looks like a mock-up with for the ITC thing today. Like I did that in like 3 minutes. Which mind you, it's a mock-up. So like it's not necessarily normal to be able to build something that looks like that in that amount of time, where you need to have very specialized skills. And these pretty complicated programs like Photoshop, they're not necessarily easy to just jump in and understand exactly what's going on. But in the content creation world, you can make some really cool stuff really, really fast using kind of a combination of those two things. Recraft, one of the things about Recraft, so Midjourney is an image generator. Great, it's awesome. I think it's probably the best all-purpose image generator. There are some that have kind of unique nuances, like that they do better than other things, but just across the board, I use Midjourney for most things. Recraft has this very interesting feature. It can create live mock-ups out of any image. So what that means is if you like see an image of something, whatever, it's a person standing, you would drag that image into Recraft, you click the create mockup button, it goes through its little thing, and then you can take your logo or whatever you want and drag it over the image, and it will snap to the image like it's on the image. It wraps around corners, it will go behind objects. That's incredible. I come from the graphic design world. That's not easy. Like it takes a long time to make mockups and make them well. And you can just like click a button and make a mockup out of any image you want. And that includes AI generated images. So what you get with that is kind of the combination of using something like a Midjourney to generate any kind of image you want, whether it's a mockup or, two professionals sitting down at a table doing a business meeting, whatever you want for your promo. And then you can brand it however you want. You can put your logo on the shirts of the people in the picture. You can put like a sign in the background that has your ITC on the wall. There's just and it's crazy that you can do that in like 10 minutes. Or it used to cost a ton of money and time and a lot of highly very technical skill sets to be able to do those kinds of things. And it was timely and costly. So I would say those two things. I think people are kind of sleeping on those two, especially the combination like Midjourney meets Recraft AI. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I would just echo that. I would say it really comes down, first of all, those are awesome, and I love that. Second of all, it really comes down to what do you want to do? Are you trying to create content? Are you trying to, to process some documentation? Are you trying to do like Diane is like a little bit of both? Are you, generating information for your SoMe account? There's so many different tasks that we'll probably get into a few of those that you can, push through AI and use AI as a benefit to yourself personally and to your business and to your employees. So don't, again, go back to what these guys said. Do not be afraid to search. There is so much information out there right now. I'm not going to say you can become an AI expert in 21 days or less, but you can learn enough to know exactly how you want to apply it within your business. As you start to get more and more comfortable, you'll identify tools by proxy and, interrelatability to talking to other people about what's going to work for your business. It's just it's that a process of experimentation that's going to lead you to what you need. And then of course, working with the experts like us and, asking questions and learning from each other. And then that'll find you what you need for the task that you're trying to accomplish. Because it's a big word, right?
You didn't notice like the theme, like for people who are watching like that. I mean, I've said it, Cody, you've said it, Christopher, you've said it, Diane, you've demonstrated it in like an example that you gave. Is like putting hands on it. Like I want to re-emphasize that because there are a lot of people standing at a distance, like being overwhelmed. And it's like if you don't use it, you won't have like a contextual framework with which to know whether it's some tool that you're testing next is good or not. So like if you don't ingest some experiences, some knowledge, do some prompting, see what works, what's not, what kind of problems you can solve, you won't even know when a good tool comes out. You won't know what's good and bad. You won't know if you should pay for it or not pay for it. You won't know if you should introduce it to your team and take the time and money that it takes to train them on it. You won't know if you should integrate it into your software processes or build automations with it. Like if you don't put hands on it, like you're very limited in what kind of benefits you're going to be able to get from it in the long run.
I mean, worst case scenario, you hire yourself an intern, and somewhere inside of 6 weeks,
Yeah.
have your entire company automated. There you go.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
We've talked about that a little bit about when companies integrate, and if the early adopters are the entry level staff and the leadership isn't adopting, that it can cause some fragmentation. So I think it's really important as a leader to be open to the training side and being all in, even if you are being taught by your intern, correct? And so let's kind of like transition over into, if someone says, okay, I hear you, Noah, I hear you, Cody and Chris, like, but are there trainings I should sign up for? I always say, if you don't know how to ask a prompt, ask AI how to ask. I was actually at Microsoft headquarters when I heard that first on a stage. I'm like, just ask your chat how to ask. And so sometimes they'll give you some ideas for prompts and things like that. And so I love that I'm seeing everyone put some of your tools in the chat. Maybe it won't be captured in the recording. So maybe as some of you guys see those, you can kind of like give them a shout out, since I don't think chat gets recorded, but the chat. But think about skills. So like, as you look at your team, Cody and Chris, I know you guys manage a lot of people. You're growing huge corporations. What are you looking for in skills and tools? And if someone is watching this and they're like, wow, I'd like to get a different job, is there somewhere where I can get a little bit of AI skilling so that I can be that next best employee for someone, or as a business owner, like looking to, make their first hires? So maybe let's talk a little bit about the skills.
Yeah. I think I see two things in this realm. One of them, and maybe I'll just start kind of like from a small business perspective. Like, what are maybe some things you should focus on? Like, what's a skill set maybe you don't have, and something to look for. I think understanding your data is one of those key things, because if you want to start building on things, there's definitely an aspect where some of these tools that are out there, you can integrate them into your workflows. And yet, if you want to maybe start building things around AI or really digging in deeper to create more efficiency, at the end of the day, being able to feed in data about your business somehow, some way, whether maybe you want to build some sort of chat bot that can really speed up customers getting into your system and getting their resolution. The best way to feed some of that and have a great experience is to be able to feed it data on the past. If you're looking to help your sales team, things like that, being able to find that data maybe that you have over the past 2, 3, 5, 10 years, whatever it may be, can be great to feed into that to create some things. So that's just one thing in general. People that are thinking about data, how to collect things, and how might we use that data going forward is, I think, just kind of this universal thing of, as AI becomes more and more prominent, that's a skill set, whether you're a developer, whether you're a business owner, or whether you're somewhere in between. Thinking kind of that data first mindset is a key piece. Specifically, like as a technology company and working out there, it, it may sound a little off the beaten path, but really what I'm looking for, it's almost less about a specific skill set, but what I'm looking for is people that just, they want to interact with other people. They want to have that conversation, get to know them. Because I think one of the things that we see with AI is, because it's so powerful, you need to have people that are kind of more open and more curious, that are out there. And so outside of a specific skill set, I'm looking for people that are, well, tell me how you're doing it today. How would you imagine, in a perfect world, how would you like to do that? When I can have developers that think like that, we can, really do some cool things, because then we can come back and maybe they don't know the exact skills to do some things, but they can work with other people I have on the team that have built things like that, and have seen things, but they're creating that connection with customers. So that's something, as I'm looking to find that blend on the technology side, I need some folks that understand what can be done, but I need folks that are really curious to help bridge that and bring that back in and be a technology bridge in some of these areas. So those are some things that I'm really looking for as I continue to build my team for kind of this AI generation, this AI phase.
Yeah, I can add on to that. I think you know, obviously as a larger company, we are specifically focused on folks with, you know, machine learning backgrounds and, you know, strong AI software technologists, people of that nature. But also to Cody's point, you know, folks that are like that, but they're also curious, you know, and they'd have a little bit of a technology mindset so that they can ask the right questions about how we're going to apply this AI use case. There's just such a plethora of use cases. But when I think about this just from a practical standpoint, like, you know, just everyday use case by I too have owned my own small business and understand the needs and the requirements and the finances to go behind saying, oh my gosh, how would I ever bring somebody in to do such a thing? You know, that's going to be millions of dollars, right? Um, I I I take the fact that if you go back to what Cody was saying, somebody that's a good communicator, somebody that's curious, understand why you want to use the AI a little bit. What is it that you want to use it for? Do you want to, you know, create a little demand generation and, you know, web content? Are you going to try to process a lot of documentation? Are you going to use it to just, you know, minimize a few tasks? You know, like in being able to create customer service documentation or actually play customer service roles for you. You know, if and once you kind of understand that, that it allows you to go take and find the right segment. Like for instance, you don't want to take an engineer and go create your next marketing campaign. It'll it, it won't work out. It's not a good idea, right? So engineers can't sell Coca-Cola. You know, they'll drink a hell of a lot. They won't sell it for you, right? But you wouldn't want to take somebody, you know, from a you know a like-minded, like maybe a really big thinker, and say, well, you know, an innovator, a creator of content, and say, well, I want you to process all these documents for me, you know, and find a tool to make that happen. So it might not, you know, they can go together if you have the right mindset, but they're kind of, it's a variable. Where do you want to be in this? What's the right task? And I think one person can play that entire role. They can do content management, they can do creation, they can do, you know, a lot of different ways to apply AI to find and ask all the right questions and interview correctly to find the right tools for you. There's so many tools out there right now, guys. A lot of them free, and we got to get into the legalism of that later, but a lot of them free and a lot of them that can help you. You know, you don't really have to have a resident expert machine learning scientist, data scientist, all this. If that was the case, Diane wouldn't be as successful as she is at using machine learning and AI today, right? She's been able to successfully navigate that world on her own without having a technologist behind her, right? And so then that leads to partnering with people like Cody and like Noah. Like as you go broader and bigger, and you figure out where you want to be, that you take that person that's kind of training and focusing their mind and learning about all these things, and take to the next level and say, now how do we go broad with this? And that's where the difference is like in how you want to start using it, how much data you want to process, or how many tasks you have that you want AI to get done. Once it goes above and beyond that, that you have that person allocated to talk with somebody who's an expert in the field, right? And manage it from there.
Is that my cue? Am I supposed to
That's
talk now?
your cue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, so I mean, I'm significantly smaller than the company, you know, your guys' companies. So, you know, and I am actually I've been interviewing a few people lately. I'm looking to maybe bring on a couple people. And it's interesting that when you know, when people ask me what's the thing that you're looking for the most, like like the first thing I say is like I'm looking for a dog. Like I'm looking for someone who's hungry. And to your guys' point, like it's that curiosity, it overshadows an enormous amount of technical skill. And there is like it is you get diminishing returns, right? Because even if someone has an extremely high amount of technical skill, like the worse their people skills are, like the worse that it almost starts to not matter at all how good they are at what they do. They'll poison your company. right? And like versus like person who is not as technical, who's super curious and teachable and communicates well and wants to be involved in projects and is passionate about the mission. Like those things, you can't teach that, and I would much rather work with a person like that than anyone else. And so like for people who are looking for employment, I think anyone who's looking for someone to work with them, they see or even feel if they don't describe it, they feel that intrinsic quality, that kind of curiosity, the humility, the willingness to like be collaborative. Like people can sense that when you're around them. But in terms of like skill sets themselves, yeah, it is a little difficult to zero in on a specific skill set in the AI world right now because AI is changing so fast. It's like, what is a valuable skill set in AI? That's to Chris's point, it's like, what problem are you trying to solve? If you don't know what the problem that you're trying to solve is, then you should maybe work on your soft skills because those will translate across every single industry and every single job you go into forever. Like that, if you're an incredibly like, if you're charismatic, if you're likable, if you have great communication skills, if you're humble, if you're hungry, if you're curious, like that, those things will, you can get a job anywhere, you know? But in terms of like actual skill sets that are going to propel you forward in the age of AI, I would say that those are very domain specific because AI is a very broad term. So if you're in real estate, it's not so much like, how do I get good at AI? It's like, what problem are you trying to solve exactly? And then it's like, then that comes back to having that contextual framework, right? Because if you haven't put hands on it and you don't know what kinds of problems AI is capable of solving, you won't even know what to do. Like once you identify the problem, how AI can help you or not help you. So while you're identifying specific problems in your company that you can solve, like simultaneously be putting hands on AI, not necessarily with the intention of solving some complex problem, but really just to gain and start ingesting some kind of knowledge or of what these tools are capable of. And eventually those two things will meet. Once you start to identify the problems that you're trying to solve and understand the capabilities that AI have, the intersection of those two things, that's where you're trying to get to. So that would be my thought.
Wow, I feel like what I'm hearing from you, Noah, is it's kind of leveling the playing field. I didn't hear either you, Cody, or Chris say that they needed to have a PhD and years of experience, but I can tell you that, like, as we're still in that emerging phase, I feel like there still are a lot of people that haven't played with that. They haven't gotten their hands on it. And so if I was interviewing for a job today, there might be a little bit of variance in the response to someone if I say I haven't played with AI. But as we get further down that path, if you're interviewing someone that's never touched it and it's been very available for a long time, that would certainly be telling as to where that person is curious and is played with it. So even just having some basic knowledge, if I'm hearing you all correctly, that could potentially be an advantage to someone that is seeking employment. But if they have some of that fear and barrier. So I know that we could talk for a long time and I want to definitely get at least another 10 minutes and then we can open up to some Q&A. But let's talk a little bit about that worry about you mentioned, I think one of you mentioned the ethical implications. And so if I'm a small business owner and I'm wanting to use, Image Journey and Recreate, and I'm wanting to create content, but then I'm like, can I use it? Can I post it? What can I do with it? So, if any of you have any experience or thoughts on, how does a small business owner like not be as worried about that, or how do they get over the ethical implications or the potential risks of using AI? So they're playing with it, they're using it, but they're just, is there a good space for them to get that information on, what can if I create it, can I use it? And Noah, I've seen you on, I don't know, I probably don't have enough fingers to count the number of panels I've seen you on talk about this topic. So let's have you lean in first on this one.
Okay, so I guess we can start with the facts that you can't own AI generated content. That's like the baseline as the law stands right now. So like again, this is pretty domain specific. If you are a graphic design company and you're creating a logo for somebody, the implications of that law are much more significant to you versus a small business owner who wants to create social media content, right? So for the vast majority of people, that's not really, it won't come into play very often. Also, it is worth noting that we are very nascent. Like we're in the very beginning stages of the law being formed around generative AI content, what it means, who can own it, how it can be owned. It's very difficult to imagine that they're going to roll out some law that makes it so that no one is going to use any generative AI. And I'm not sure that there is a law that they could make that would make that stop. I think the cat's out of the bag, and we're just kind of going into that future. I would say for the vast majority of instances, it's not a viable concern. And what you're losing by waiting is way more than what you would be losing if they roll out some law that changes how you can use it later. Like, because like I said, like it's not going backwards. We're never going back. Like it's out, it's open source. People can download models and play with them on their own computers. Like it's not going anywhere. It's on people's laptops, it's on the phones. And so ethical, there is like kind of a nuance of morality in that phrase. Like, and I think that's a very personal thing that people need to decide for themselves. Artists might feel differently about image generators than like a small business owner who doesn't have an art background. And so that's like a personal thing. But from a business standpoint, like it's very difficult to measure like when one person uses it and it saves, like it's one of my favorite stories. Like one person who started using some of the tools and tips, and like I got a text months later saying like, one of the best things about all the things that you showed me is that I have dinner with my family every night now, because it chopped about 4 hours out of their day. That's what they said. And so they got home in a reasonable hour, and that was one of the things that was like the best thing. Like, how do you measure that against the thing of like, well, where did they get these images to train these image generators? Like, are we going against the artists? Like you're in a very gray kind of amorphous space where you're trying to measure like these different, like the value of two different human experiences. Very, very difficult. I would say that if the ethical concerns are about where the models get their data from or things like that, then go ahead and go through every single app on your phone and read the terms and conditions of every single one of them, and then tell me how you feel about where data is going. Until you do that, use the tool to make your life better and the lives of the people around you better. Like that's what I would say, because I think the fear is a little bit of a smoke screen. Like, oh, I have ethical concerns. Like, do you? Are you on a committee? Or do you understand the technology? How many apps like people don't read their terms and conditions, they just download stuff. And they press yes. And then AI comes along and like, oh, I'm really concerned now. Are you? Like and I'm not saying like, I'm not trying to like put everybody down. I'm just trying to put it in a frame of reality. Because while all this thinking is happening and people are really resistant and taking all this time, you're losing a lot of productivity. You're falling farther and farther behind in a technology wave that's not going backwards. I mean, find a way to make it mean something to you and have it improve your life and the lives of your employees and the lives of your friends and the lives of your family. Like that means something, our time is limited. I don't want to, I'm soapboxing. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Yeah, I think, just as you share that, Noah, one thing that jumps out to me too, like, it comes back to, how, the World Wide Web, getting things on the web, getting things out there, but even like search engines, I mean, similar conversations have been had, again, and it's, um, there are definitely some things that need to be considered. And I think, again, if somebody has a specific wall up and tools are going around that, I do think that's a challenge that needs to be looked at. But in terms of end users, consumers, it is in general, there's information that's out there, and a lot of some of the things we're talking about here, the GPTs or even these other tools, it's taking information that you have in some form and putting context around that and helping you get access to it more quickly. So yeah, just definitely see some things you're sharing there, Noah. And I think we're going to see, a lot of people look at things in this realm, and yet it's here. And I think sitting on the sidelines and being worried about it isn't going to help you in that realm. Be a part of it, get to using it and see what works and see what challenges you see and be a part of it. Specifically, one thing I want to jump in, I think just kind of the trust of where things are. I think one thing that often people think about is they're like, well, AI could give me on my side, the development side, there may be a hesitation like, well, the code it generates may not be correct. It may not work right. It may have defects. Let me share with everybody. I know this will be groundbreaking, but I've written code, developers have written code that have a few defects in it too. It's going to happen. And so I really see it's this space of trust and verify. Use it to help you out, but don't just take it for granted either. Like it's summarizing, it's helping accelerate, but there's still some diligence that you need to bring to the table. And I think that's a key thing, whether you're using it to generate an image, whether you're using it to help build a summary, whether it's summarizing a meeting, there's still a level, like it doesn't completely replace everything. You're not off the hook, like Chat GPT, or Copilot, when it summarizes a meeting, it'll give you references into that meeting where that point was discussed. If it's really critical and a deal hinges on it, it's on you to go look at that and make sure it's there. Just like the same way, if I have it generate some code that's going to run in a production web service, I need to know and look at that code and say like, okay, I've put the diligence in. I know that code to the best of my knowledge is going to do what it says. So that's where I think the trust and verify method is. It's going to help speed you up, and yet it doesn't replace everything.
Yeah, I would just echo those same sentiments. It's really, I guess the only addition I could add to that is, in terms of content creation, just vet your work. Before you publish anything, you put anything out on the net, before you go out and let this thing handle maybe some marketing for you, or some information that's going to be on the web, if you will, or for public consumption. Do your due diligence, vet your work like you would, a good publisher would do before they put it in the newspaper, right? You got to make sure it's good, just to make sure that it doesn't cross any boundaries or anything like that, because it is as good as it is, it's still going to make some decisions that might, I don't know, for the audience that you're trying to display this for, not always come across in the way that you wanted to convey that message, right? And so just vet your work, check your work, and yeah, remember, this thing's a big knowledge base. It's like a giant child. All these things are children learning, and they're amassing information, and the more they learn, the better they get. And to us, if we want to share that, great, which is really a good thing. Like Noah's, it's kind of almost, you got to think a little bit utilitarian in that regard, but it's good because the better it gets, the better we all get, right? And the more work it can do for us. In the same regard, if there's, like anything in your own personal use, if you don't want anybody knowing about it, you probably shouldn't share it. Or if it's private, like financials or things that are your secret sauce to your business, work with professionals like the two gentlemen that are on the line first, and talk to them about how you keep your data from being compromised. But outside of that, the sky's the limit. They're just, do your due diligence. As Cody said, trust but verify at all times.
Yeah, I agree with that. That whole argument of like, how do we know it's true? Like, how did you know that the results you got from Google were true? Did you stop using Google because of that? No.
Because the web, so I know because the
Sure
web
didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, like we no technology absolves us of the responsibility to verify or to like check our quality. Like that's a us thing. That's not a tech thing, Um, I do. Yeah. Yes. I want to kind of acknowledge Brandon's question. I think that's a really good question. And I want to read it in case you guys haven't seen it. What if you're looking for the best AI tool that will learn your business and help you without having to reintroduce your business for every prompt, which I'm assuming is like context about your business? Many AI tools are available to purchase, but as a small business owner, capital is limited, and I want to be able to invest the right money in the right tool to help me scale, produce content, and connect with customers. Well, those are all very different, scaling, producing content, connecting with customers are very different problems. But what I will say is that probably the first thing you would look at if you're looking at what tool is where is your data currently? Because if you're like in a Microsoft ecosystem, you might be looking at a Copilot just for the ease of integration. If you don't want to spend a lot of time porting over data or trying to figure out where it is. But if you're a Google company, you might be looking at Google's platform, whether it be just Google AI Studio, or they have a Gemini baked into so many of their stuff now. And also Even GPT now has a Google Drive integration, so you can hook up your Google Drive into GPT if all your information is in Google. But if it's in Excel and you have a ton of information there and you want it to stay inside your closed ecosystem, you might be looking at more like a Copilot. If you don't have sensitive information, then you have a lot more options. But I think the question that you're really asking about not having to reintroduce your business for every prompt, that will take a little bit of um, there's a little bit of tooling, no matter which platform you go with. You'll probably have some kind of a file or a set of instructions for your AI that explains a little bit about how your company works, maybe how to find certain kinds of information, what your mission is, what your products offer. And I have that like in GPT, for instance. I have like an AI genius automations project, and it has all kinds of context about my company, my website, what I offer, who my target clients are, how I communicate with them, like all these different things, the tools that I use. So it has all that context every single time I ask it a question, and that's inside of a GPT project. And Claude has projects, and Copilot has projects, and like they all have their own version of it. I think the thing that's probably most that will drive a lot of that decision is going to be where your data is currently. Because if you didn't want to use Copilot for some reason, and if you know that you don't want to, then you need to have a reason to do probably a lot of work to port your data from one system into another system. That will represent quite a bit of work a lot of times. I would say where's your data, but those ones stick out right off the bat. You have Gemini for Google, which in their whole Google AI Studio. You have Copilot for Microsoft. You have GPT and Claude that both allow you to set up projects, import files, set custom instructions, and do all of that. And any one of those things, if you invest enough time, because I don't want to make it seem like it's going to be just like instantly incredible. If you invest enough time to understanding how to set up your instructions and how and where to put your files, and you'll have a conversation back and forth with it about and see how you like the outputs. But after you put in even just like a few days of just kind of messing around with it, you'll probably see that it's quite incredible how much different it is. Like having that conversation with the system that knows your stuff. That would be my advice for you, Brandon.
Awesome. Want to jump in one thing here too, just as you were sharing on some things there, Noah, and also going back through, Kevin, you listed out a couple tools in there too, and just to capture those in the recording and everything too. They were, some great sharing on that, because Noah, you kind of prompted, some folks. So definitely OpenAI and Gemini Advanced got some votes in there. And then AI Studio got some bumps as well. But Kevin, you mentioned a few there too. Obviously another +1 for Notebook LM. So that'll be the takeaway. Notebook LM usage will skyrocket after today's conversation. But yeah, Kevin, you shared a few more, from like, Midjourney and Ideogram in there. But really, I see, we didn't really touch base on this, but some music stuff with Suno and Udio and Riff Fusion. Perplexity, I'm surprised it didn't come up beforehand. I kind of forgot about that, but Perplexity AI like is a search engine. It's a little bit different approach, but that's something where try that on instead of using Google. Google's great, and yet try Perplexity on, see what it's like. And then on the visual side, Kevin, you mentioned Napkin.ai, which I haven't used and seen, but now I'm curious. I have something to play with tonight. So those are a few things. Kevin, you mentioned you've generated images for presentations and infographics using that. So a few more tools for you guys to take a look at and note.
Awesome.
Thanks for that.
Thank you so much. This hour just flew by, and what a great conversation with our panelists. Thank you so much, Christopher with Bastion Solutions and Noah Riley with AI Genius Automations, and amazing Cody Erben with End Time Tech. You guys have been such great partners of the ITC. You're members of the Idaho Tech Council. The message we want all small business owners to know is, regardless of your industry and your product or service, if you have a question about technology, reach out to the Idaho Technology Council.